Hello, everyone. Welcome to NKBA Live Brave New Business Week 6. I'm Bill Darcy. I hope everyone and your families and colleagues are healthy and safe. We're glad to see so many of you logging in, especially because some of the parts of the country, as we know, businesses that were closed have begun to cautiously reopen. And while we're all anxious for that to happen, we realize that this environment is going to be very different from what it was prior to the crisis for some time. Our Brave New Business series allows NKBA to react to this unprecedented moment with timely, relevant live content. In the past 2 weeks, we've looked at virtual design, virtual showroom operations, and today we'll take a deeper dive into the supply chain in keeping connected, moving forward in all stages of the process, from design to product selection, sampling, purchase, delivery, and installation. Our guests are Debbie Schaeffer, CEO of Mrs. G, an appliance dealer in New Jersey. Kevin Dexter, President and COO, Fisher & Paykel North America, part of the higher GE family of appliances. And John Petrie, CMKBD, a past NKBA National President and owner of Mother Hubbard's, a design build firm in Pennsylvania. Just a little housekeeping before we begin. This online forum qualifies for 1/2 CEU credit for our certified members. Not for John though, because he's obviously on the panel. I'd like to thank NKBA Design Competition Award winner Brett Dangler, CMKBD, a member of our Aloha chapter in Hawaii, for the use of his beautiful design in the background here. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the NKBA team, people who are working very hard behind the scenes to make BNB possible every week, especially our Diane Pagoda and Mark Carnival. And a huge thanks to Whitegood, NKBA's PR firm based in Lancaster, PA, as well as our social media partner, Flying Camel, based in Toronto, Canada. If any of you are looking for great work in PR or social media, I encourage you to seek them out. We'll have some time for questions at the end, so please type those in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, not the text chat, please. So let's get started. Kevin, let's begin with the supply chain. From the manufacturer's point of view, how has the chain been affected by state lockdowns and import restrictions, and how have you adapted?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And good afternoon, everybody. Good morning. So a couple things that I'd like to say about supply chain specifically as we kick it off. One is, certainly I'd like to thank all the supply chain professionals that are working out there selflessly to make things happen every day. If you think about, if I used a military analogy and we were all as a community say, take that hill, it's the supply chain professionals, they're the NCOs and the enlisted folks that are gathering up quickly and then going and making things happen. And that's factory ops, that's warehouse ops, service, install, procurement, customer service, order desk, all through the supply chain, both manufacturer and trade partners. There's a lot of folks that again are out there getting it done. So that's first off. I think the second thing, Bill, when I think about supply chains that have become over the past 15, 20 years so very global, there are no two supply chains that are identical. So there's several dimensions there. One, within a company, different product lines will have different supply chains. Then if I move to the kind of the next sphere, certainly if you're on the project side out there like John or Debbie trying to get things done and you have multiple companies servicing a project, those are coming from different, sometimes unique supply chains. And then last but not least, it's the regions and markets that we're serving. And in recent times, with such a disparate amount of regulations and open or not open for business, it's really presented a challenge. And so, with that as a backdrop, what have we been doing and what are a lot of folks doing? One is just engaging in supply chain triage. So it's immediately going to identify where their pain points or potential pain points exist and how are those addressed. Find the workarounds and how do we implement them in the near term while we still think about long term in the viability of these supply chains. And then I think last but not least, the frequency and the cadence with which companies are having to talk supply chains that prior to this would have thought about things in a monthly forecasting meeting, and many times the horizon for those forecasting meetings would have been 90, 120 days, 6, 9 months out, where you have to think about procuring parts and all the things that go into a finished product. You know, those have smashed right down to locally and globally having daily stand-ups around, you know, what information do we know recently? What are we hearing about the needs from our trade partners? How are we connecting that all the way through the supply chain? So it's that frequency and that collaboration that has to happen that's really been a key to how we work our way through the current situation.
That makes a lot of sense. Debbie, you're an independent dealer in New Jersey, where most the virus-induced restrictions are still in place. So we've heard from Kevin about the supply chain at the manufacturer level. How has that trickled down and affected your inventory at the retailer level, and kind of how are you managing through that?
Yeah, so first I want to say thank you for having me on the show today. And hello, everybody. So for those of you that don't know Mrs. G, we're located in New Jersey, central New Jersey, right outside of Princeton. We're one store. And our inventory, how we get most of our inventory is through buying group, cooperative buying group, ADC, Appliance Dealer Cooperative in New Jersey, which is part of the NECO cooperative buying group. So being in New Jersey, when we, you know, the lockdown came, the stay-at-home orders came, which has been now 7 weeks. Appliances have been deemed essential, as all of home repair, home construction has been deemed essential. So we have continued, but only on an essential purposes only. So what does that mean? Of course, that's your washer, dryers, your dishwashers, your refrigeration, some cooking, not much, but you know, those 3 categories, and of course, you know, the microwave. And over the last seven weeks, especially in the last couple of weeks, we have seen, you know, inventory that has dwindled through our buying groups. And we are blessed with having a great digital presence with the help of the buying groups, that we can actually have real-time inventory all the time via our iPads, which are in our store. And it's also available to our customers, where, you know, as I said, gives us real-time inventory. But what we've found in the last couple of weeks, as those manufacturers, and not just appliance manufacturers, but manufacturers, we all know this, we hear it all over the news, that either they're shut down for a couple of weeks, you know, to protect their employees, to create their own processes, to, you know, figure this whole thing out. Some have their employees, you know, Kevin can talk about, you know, that, you know, not working with a lot of their own staff. And so these shutdowns have now started to affect us. We're now into the 7th and 8th week of what's going on. So we're starting to see it. You know, the inventory is not there, and it's scary, because even though we don't see it now, we feel like in the next couple of weeks that you know, it's going to get worse. And we hope it's in a short term, because we're starting to hear some manufacturers have gotten back on track and started to produce. But then, you know, some of those, even though if they're made here in the country, some are made out of the country, whether they can bring their products in. And then also they could be ramped up here in the United States, but they're getting parts, you know, from someplace else where they can't get parts. And now all of a sudden, you know, that manufacturing has stopped. And what's really important through all of this is communication. Our buying groups have been, ADC has been amazing, keeping us informed of what is, we're having some issues. Grills, this is grill season. And what we should expect to be prepared for not having the inventory and having back orders. So having that communication from our vendors And our vendors they've been sending us, updated letter of what's happening in their inventory. They're back on track. But having that communication from the cooperative buying groups and our manufacturers directly, we're able to communicate, which is so important to our customer. Our customer needs to know what's going on. And even if it's bad news, because they're all shopping online and they're all, they're literally picking out their products. Some are ordering online, some are ordering right over the, buying right over the telephone. We have been open, again, like I said, for essential purposes only. And so when they come in and they have a product in mind and now you can't get it. So my staff needs to really be in the know. They have to know what to expect and communicate that all the way to our customer. And so for projects, because most of us here at NKBA, we're working, hopefully getting the business back on track. We're quoting a lot. A lot of my partners have told me they've been doing a great job virtually, and there's a lot of quotes out there. But come in another couple of weeks, the customer's got to know that some of these products, and it could be one piece out of 4 that could just, shut the project down or delay product. And most important is communication, so we know what's exactly is out there.
So John, for you're in Pennsylvania, where some of the restrictions have eased, in the past week. Can you tell us a little bit more about, how you're working through things in PA, and specifically in your business, like many NKBA members, is a specification of cabinets. So in your experiences with the cabinet supply chain as well.
Well, Bill, it's I got to tell you, it's hard not to smile. It's a huge relief for us. May 1st, we were able to go back to work. Back to work for us, working and remodeling in consumers' homes. So we spent the first day doing that, though, actually just going over some CDC protocols, just practicing safe remodeling, I guess, and making sure that we're healthy and that our consumers are healthy. But our installers, I'm happy to say, are back in our clients' homes and remodeling. The best news about that, though, then for us is the phones are starting to ring, right? So people now are making appointments. Just this week, I think I did a meeting this morning with the rest of my team. We have 6 new appointments set up to go out and remodel. If we go back, we talk about cabinetry and that supply chain, that was effectively closed by our governor on March the 23rd, when we were all ordered as non-essential and not able to work. But again, that's starting to open back up, and we have 2 of our manufacturers here in Pennsylvania that are actually going to start, I guess, on Monday, which will be the 11th. So I think many others in the state are able to do the same thing. So that's fantastic news.
You talked a little bit about the safety protocols for your, contractors and things like that. Debbie, can you talk a little bit about what you've done for your team and for the customer in the showroom that can help the audience understand kind of the protocols you're putting in place?
Okay. Again, we've been open, as the showroom has been open, but we definitely have procedures. Right away, I made sure that everyone in my showroom who is working has to wear masks. Now, anybody in my showroom that can, or I say showroom and warehouse, we're connected. My warehouse is right behind my showroom. Anyone who can work at home are working at home. So I'm trying to keep as minimal people as possible so that everyone can not only have social distance, but also just, to feel safe. So for instance, my marketing team, my service team, those people, as much as we miss seeing their face every day, we've been on a Zoom, they have worked at home, and that has been that has worked out very well for the last 7 weeks. I'm pleasantly surprised. It wasn't easy. Their computers are all set up. We actually see them working on their computers in the showroom. So that required IT professionals to come in and set them up. My team, to keep morale and to keep feeling everybody safe, we have sanitizers all over the store. And that we've had previously because we've always kept the store. It was always important for me to keep the store safe. So we've had these big jugs of Perel in the show. We've had those prior to when the virus started. So people are always asking us, where did we get those big Perel jugs? So they have been great. And I have a big table as the customers come in. I have a big table set up with the Perel. Every customer that wants to come into the showroom, and we don't have a lot of customers. It's not like customers are in our area. We're in Bill, we're in a tough shape with this virus, and we all have to be extremely careful. And many people are staying at home, and so those that need the essentials, the washer right away, the dishwasher, the refrigerators right away. There are a lot over the phone, but some people have to come in. They just have to see it. They have to make sure if they're getting a different color, they want to, there's so many reasons why they have to come in. And I will tell you, and I've been very, again, pleasantly surprised that every single customer that has come into my showroom, and I put this all over social media and all our marketing, you must wear a mask. So before you come into the showroom, I have signs, you must wear a mask. Some customers wear gloves, some do not. But I insist that they use the Perel and the sanitizers. We also have sinks and faucets. We have a sink and faucet with soap. If they want to wash their hands in the showroom, that's okay too. And if they're wearing gloves, they still got to use the sanitizer. The other thing is we've reduced our hours, and again, to keep everybody safer. We've also shifted some of our frontline sales staff. We shifted their hours so we could make sure that they are socially distant from each other. And those are the protocols. And I watch, I remind everybody, because customers, we're all not used to social distancing. I will tell you, people are just not used to it. And it's natural for everyone to want to get close. And so we've learned over the last 7 weeks that you have to just remind the customer, because it's the law here in New Jersey, to remind the customer that they have to have the social distancing, which is 6 feet. And their chairs where they sit down when we process the sale, they're all 6 feet apart. And so you have to keep the processes in place and remind your staff every day. I'm there, I'm supporting them, and we're so grateful, to be able to help our customers and be open. But it's tough. It's been really tough because replacement is not a big part of our business. Our business is, the kitchens, the laundry rooms, the renovations, the projects, and we want to see them back. We're hoping that they come back real fast. Yeah.
Kevin, you're obviously a big, huge corporation all over the world. How are you working to keep those employees engaged and dealing with different regions operating at different times? Just the complexity of that is hard to imagine.
Yeah. So again, it's many of the themes that you would have heard at a different scale from what Debbie described, but it's essentially the same thing, right? It's safety and well-being is a non-negotiable. So whatever we've had to do when the world stopped, make sure that all our folks are safe. And by safety and well-being, that's both the physical safety and well-being of folks, and that's mental safety and well-being, because there's a lot, just as Debbie and John would say, from not having contact with individuals out there and consumers internally, where you've got offices that have worked together for 15, 20 years and had a way of working now to just spring into a virtual world is challenging from the lack of social engagement. So, it's really about the engagement there. And, then the second thing, beyond the safety and well-being, is just the increased frequency and quality of communications. And again, you heard Debbie talk about communications being a key internally and externally, but, for our folks, it's, in the past, for example, we may have had a quarterly North America stand up all hands, and we've moved that to a weekly cadence right now. And, that's just essential for folks to be connected. And then I think, last but not least, it's, in those communications, it's let's talk about what we know. And maybe more importantly, let's just be honest and transparent about what we don't know. And so I think a lot of those things relative to, because if you get those things right and you have the employee engagement, then it allows you to be nimble and start to react to different regions across North America and how business comes up or not. Be engaged with your partners, but it's really important to just make sure that you've got the total organization operating in real time and reacting to the environment as it exists.
John, going to you, as far as, one is having projects mid-installation when this all hit and you had to kind of react to that and deal with a project that was started and stopped and that type of thing. So I'd like to hear from that, about that, as well as working with state and local authorities. We haven't really talked about that, and I know you are very active in Pennsylvania as far as helping you accommodate, your company and what you're actively trying to do, and how are they supporting you, or if they are?
Sure. No, so you can imagine it was a big challenge to get the order that you had to stop. And, we had projects that were in midstream and in some cases almost completely finished. One kitchen in particular that just didn't have its appliances. So, we applied for our exemption with the governor's office, which sadly took over 2 weeks to hear an official reply back. But we had to work for our customers as best we could. So, in my case, I reached out to my state representatives who were a huge asset to help us and combat for us to get back in and finish at least 2 of those projects to the point where they were at least able to be used and allow the client to use them. So your state reps, your state senators, they're there for you. They've been really working hard, and we've communicated more than I ever would have in the last 4 or 5 weeks.
That's great. One other question for you, John. As far as your customers being a little skittish about going into public spaces, or your your contractors going into homes, or the public accepting your contractors into your homes, especially when you're dealing with, differently than Debbie, you're dealing with subcontractors. So can you talk a little bit about how you put your customers' minds at ease and also your contractors to respect
Sure.
kind of what your guidelines are?
Yeah, sure. No, it's in our case, we're going into their homes to work. So, really, it's we heard Kevin and Debbie both talk about communication, and it's been very key from the early onset. We communicated to all of our prospects and projects that that we were here, that we're working remotely, and that we're weathering this storm. Now that message has changed. To communicate to them how we're going to remodel in their homes safely. Our employees are checked every day. We're making sure there's no cough, there's no fever. They haven't traveled anywhere or been around anybody that is symptomatic. So we're doing that, but then also asking them, quite frankly, to do the same. And it's been a very open and a good communication back and forth with the homeowner. So they're receptive to it. They understand. They want to stay healthy. We want to stay healthy. Our showroom right now is, it's closed. It's only open by appointment. And so we spent the shutdown time cleaning and disinfecting our entire showroom inside and out. But now, it's by appointment, so we can control the clients in and out. And when we do have them in, we can, when they're done, we can clean the showroom and just assure that the next person in is good and clean and safe.
Great. Well, I think we have time for a few questions before we wrap up. So just a reminder, please type those in the Q&A function if you have some questions at the bottom of your screen. Leanne, what questions do we have for our panel?
Yes, this is for Kevin. Kevin, do you have a core of products that designers should be specifying that are in better inventory positions than others?
Yeah, that's a great question. And when I talked earlier about, you know, this daily cadence now of looking at supply chain, part of it is fulfilling the needs that already exist out there. And as Debbie and John both mentioned and would appreciate, make sure that we've got products that have already been spec going in. And then what we'll be doing is starting to make sure that we've got the most essential items. We're producing those first. And so when we get down in our world where we operate at Fisher and Paykel, you'd think about columns, you know, a select assortment of some of our ranges and cooking products. But, you know, that's certainly something that whoever had the question, you know, reach out to us directly and we'll start to talk about, you know, what those are. And those are the kind of communications that we also have to have with the Debbies of the world and the Johns of the world to make sure as they look forward into the midterm that they've got some confidence that they can specify and go with conviction.
Great. The next question is for John. John, you mentioned the phone is ringing again. With new clients, what will you be telling them in terms of timing? How are you setting expectations?
So while remodeling is open and we can go out into homes, there's still a little bit of a gray area where, you know, can we go out to new prospects' homes? Because we're in our county, we're still in what we would consider, or what our governor calls, a red county. So we've scheduled those appointments out just for another week or so. We're wearing masks at those appointments, but more to the challenge is working with our manufacturers and trying to work and find out, okay, what is the lead time for the product and how does that jive with our lead time? And it's just an open and honest communication. So far, it's been working well, and people are, you know, like I said, with the phone ringing, they're anxious to do a project, but they want it done right and they're willing to wait. So that's encouraging.
Well, I want to thank our guests for their insights and wonderful information today, Debbie, Kevin, and John. We're very, very grateful for the community is grateful for your insights. Next week, our subject near and dear to our hearts, the future of trade shows and the role of virtual integration. Our guests will be Brian Paykel, EVP of our partner trade show producer, Emerald Expositions, Bob Priest-Heck, the CEO of Freeman, and Mark Tester, Executive Director of the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando. This is surely going to be a lively and critical conversation as we plan for KBIS 21 next February in Florida. Thanks again to our panelists for all this great information, and thanks to all of you for your great questions and making the time to join us today. Please follow the NKBA and me on social media for the latest news and updates from the kitchen and bath industry. Stay safe and well, and we hope to see you again next week. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.